But it's all good, well and good. So Anas, let's straight zoom into action. You are an investigative journalist, and everybody acknowledges the fact that your job speaks for itself. What prompts you to do the sort of things you do?
Well, I think that we are governed by the rules and regulations in our society, the feel that we must all have a just society so that things can move on professionally, things can go on well. For me, if my story impacts the life of a child who has been trafficked, a child who is in bondage, one limb impacted alone is enough for me. And there's nothing greater than doing a story that puts a smile on a child, on the face of a little child. These are the things that gets me going. I do stories looking at my village and making sure that my story impacts on the people in my village. Let me say that I am not a football person. I don't really like football. I grew up as a barracks boy, and football wasn't one of the things I liked. But I do remember sometime during President Kufuor's presidency that I got a call from one of my friends, Muhib Said, and he said he was at the stadium and some people had died and they had brought them to 37 Military Hospital morgue. So he wanted me to check whether one of our friends was among the dead body. That was the very first time I got into the morgue, and there were so many dead bodies I could see. I went from one body to the other. Then I asked myself, what took these people to the stadium? Why would you want to risk this? What happened? Why did they die? So these questions I asked myself. Eventually, of course, 127 people died, the famous May 9th incident. And when the report came out, one of the key points that was made was that there was poor officiating. So I kept on asking, because if you looked at the offside goal, it made sense that some people would complain. But indeed, there was no evidence to suggest that anybody had taken money. So I took it upon myself from that day to look into football one day. But even though I took that decision, I still could not do it because of the lack of interest in football. But I'm happy I did it today.
So seeing the things that you saw during that time and the things that you thought you could do, did you wait to be prompted, or you just told yourself that, okay, time is ripe for me to move into action?
I think it's a multiplicity of factors that led me to look into football. And please, let's contextualize number 12. Number 12 had 77 Ghanaian referees. It has over 35 international referees coming from various African countries. So it is not a typical Ghanaian story. It's a story that has evolved in many other African countries, including Nigeria, Sierra Leone, many other countries. And in fact, I can say that I'm in the middle of number 12 because some are yet to be released in those countries. And if you are aware, there was a Kenyan referee, because the Kenyan side came out, who has resigned from the World Cup. So it is not a domestic story I did. It's a continental story. And so perhaps what made me look more now was the fact that I was seeing a continental issue, because there's been other incidents that have happened in other countries where people were molested, where people died. And that became imperative, that combined with what had happened in Ghana, I needed to look into football.
I think for say United Televisions now tienka ewo Peace FM any affiliates nyina yani yenu abema Anas Aremeyaw Anas na etwetwe nkomo na wie every ship house Abeka Junction ewo Accra. Now, why number 12?
Well, number 12, first of all, because if you look at football, it's a game of 11 people. If there is a 12th hand in it, then it means that 12th hand is there to corrupt the game. Secondly, if you watch the footages carefully, you realize that Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, during the investigation, was on the 12th floor. Thirdly, when you calculate the money that was supposed to be given to government officials, you do the 3 million, you do the 5 million, you do the 2 million, 1 million, and another 1 million, it gets to 12. So I saw that the word 12 rhymed through the story. So I decided to adopt that as the heading for it.
Now, those who have watched number 12, we've seen various referees in the act. So how come it ended up with Kwesi Nyantakyi? Were you expecting that he will be involved at the time that you set off your investigation?
Well, what we do when we begin with investigation is to look for evidence of what we are likely to get. And we were not surprised when we got Kwesi Nyantakyi, because the prima facie evidence that we had obtained indicated that he was someone who you could get using those terminologies, or better still, those style. You were likely to find him getting his hands dirty in that. Now, the other referees also, we knew, because though I'm not a sports person, I had spoken to sports journalists, even including sports journalists from your station. That's what you do. This job, you can never become a master of it all. You speak to people who have the knowledge and they explain to you. So there had been many incidents where we've had sports people complaining about poor officiating, poor referees taking money to give yellow and red cards and all that. So all this put together, indeed, gave me the clear attention. So if you look at a number of 77 referees, you look at Ghana Sports Authority, where we had about, I think, 16, and even the Ghana Football Association. So it was not concentrated on a single personality. It was about football, and we did everything football. Perhaps if he was not connected to football, we wouldn't have anything to do with him in that story.
Enti ebreben ena adwuma na wo ye no no enho koko hia se na odi Kwesi Nyantakyi. Always look for me.
Yes. Be loyal. I'll come home and look for you.
I'm asking, at what point in time that you realize that you have to focus a little more on Kwesi Nyantakyi?
Well, I think that it was part of the story. The story was that who was the president of the FA, who is in CAF, who is at FIFA. And he is a very powerful person, almost number 2 in Africa. So he was on the radar. And I wasn't surprised that he was part of it at all.
Now, let's discuss the trip to Dubai and how Kwesi spoke to the Sheikh and how things unfolded. How was that journey to Dubai facilitated?
Well, I believe that if you are doing an investigation, you build yourself up, you see the picture that eventually will come out. That particular thing could have happened in Accra. It could have happened in Lome. It could have happened anywhere in the world. What I know is that we were a team of focused journalists. We knew exactly what we wanted. We knew exactly what to say. And that's what we said. And that's what enabled us. But let's not create an impression that this was a Nyantakyi story. That's why I didn't name it Nyantakyi number 12. I named it number 12 because we looked at the whole football system in Africa. And in fact, if you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is far bigger than Ghana. So it cuts across. Football is supposed to unite us as a people. So I'd rather not want to concentrate on Kwesi Nyantakyi. In fact, locally, when you are getting interviews, his name comes up. But International interviews, nobody mentions that. They look at the story, who it affects, who are the referees involved, how does it hit people. Those are the things they look at. But as for personality, I don't think that this story was personalized in any way. He happens to be one out of the many.
But you will agree with me that for us here, we cannot discuss number 12 in details without mentioning of Kwesi Nyantechi. Now, before we drift a little bit from the Kwesi Nyantechi angle, tell me, how much did you give to Kwesi Nyantechi?
Well, I have made my records very clear to the police service. And don't forget, when I sent my petition to FIFA, within 48 hours, he was suspended, which led to, when you are suspended from football activities, it means you can't have anything to do with the GFA or CAF. But let us accept it. He still tendered in his resignation. I have told you all that my evidence is solid, that I gave Kwesi Nyantechi $65,000. Now, I know that he has said something different. That's fair. And that's why we have adjudicating bodies. I am prepared and still preparing towards going to FIFA to testify. I am also preparing towards going to CAF. And even if the GFA gets constituted again, there will be a disciplinary committee which I will appear. Don't forget, I'm also before the police CID and other statutory investigative units, helping them to unravel the mystery around it. So I don't think it's a matter of debate. Very soon, all of us will arrive at the conclusion. I respect his opinions. He's entitled to say whatever he would say. But I believe that by the end of the day, the truth would come out. But if you look at the code of ethics, does it even matter how much? It doesn't. If it was 5 cities, it was 10 cities, it was 20 cities, indeed, it still constitutes a breach of the code.
But he has said that the money he took from you, the supposed $65,000, he facilitated his travel to Dubai, and that it was just reimbursement of the money he has spent in traveling to Dubai. How do you react to that?
Well, again, with all due respect to him, they are his opinions. Maybe he did another trip to Dubai that I was unaware of. Because I saw that and I couldn't help but smile. Because in the video that was shown, nobody talked about arrears or money. It was very clear. The conversation is clear and absolute. So if after that he went and incurred some other costs, that wasn't the trip I was talking about. Like I said, I have said mine, I have backed it with evidence. If he has his, we'll all be before the adjudicating committee. Don't forget, this is not the first time I'm going through this process. Over the years, my work has been subjected to critical scrutiny. And I always engage my people that let nobody take my work hook, line, and sinker. No. My work is not sacrosanct. Let us subject every single thing I do to critical scrutiny. Because when you do that, you build a solid personality.
And if you say that, a minute please, if you say that your work is not sacrosanct, then it means it's an admission of a fact that you yourself know some fallibilities of the jobs that you do.
No, that's not what I meant to say. Okay. I said it's not sacrosanct because I keep saying that people should be confident to ask questions about that. Because look, over the years, as people kept on asking questions, it led to a lot of education. Have you forgotten when I did the judges scandal, what happened to me? You've forgotten I got more than 66 legal suits. Some lack of understanding. I was always being cross-examined. But look, that also led to some level of education. People got to know. So anybody who feels that I have done anything wrong, you're entitled. Look, undercover work is not done in the vacuum. Before you do it, you should have established prima facie evidence. You should have also been sure that the work you do is in the public interest. Then again, you ought to be sure that this piece of work that you are putting out there undercover is the last resort. And let me clear this. Sometimes people think that because you're an undercover journalist, you don't do normal journalism. Look, how could we have watched Number 12 without interviews like this? People were interviewed, the president, all of them were interviewed. So it is not possible to have a documentary like Number 12 without conventional journalism. So people have to be very clear. When I did the Eurofood scandal, the biscuit story, was that not same story using conventional journalism? When I went into Osu Children's Home, I used conventional journalism. When I went into Accra Psychiatric Hospital as a patient, it was conventional journalism. I did go to the prisons as a prison inmate. Same. Nobody asked questions about it. Now, all of a sudden, and have you realized that those who try to poke like that are the same people who get affected? So, undercover journalism is good in America. It's good to play on the BBC. It's good to play on Al Jazeera. But it's not good to play on UTV. I mean, the same journalism principles that we all have to respect. Journalism is evolving, whether we like it or not. We can't do one type of journalism. It's conventional journalism mixed with undercover only when the undercover is necessary.
Okay. Atifo na hwefo yadamase mamaha edeba United Television so. Se oti enkana hwe yewie so a UTV Amasaji Atum Station so and Aushe. Yene Yeniabema Anas Aremeyaw Anas and a chicken comewie. Sending a yabo mama near that I said, and saying the video number 12 or the ebaye. And someone a tea for her for a tea for her father for Modia Big Jayen. Samunya yan can babisa Anasano and a Yebisani. Anas, Nichi dear, I asked him Sabu. Jana wouldn't get you no cry.
Yeah, I only know you are my very good friend.
So, did you at a point in time receive an offer of $100,000 if not more, from Kwesi Nyantechi to drop the story?
I have said that he who alleges must prove it. I mean, I can't see why anybody would not want to mention a third party who I have sent. So I have told those who are making those claims. As for me, I have never, and please mark the word, never taken bribe from anybody in respect of either Kwesi Nyantechi or any other story I have done in my entire life. You know what that means to me? If I'm found culpable of taking bribe, it means that I'll lose all the jobs I do across the world. I have to be smart enough. How much is that money compared to the money I make when I work outside? So nobody in his right senses will risk. I have said, if they think they have given money to a third party, it's up to them. Let them mention the name. It's fair. And that's why I have already taken some people to court to prove those allegations. This is a law-governed society. You don't just go about talking. You supply people with the needed evidence so that we can move forward as a nation. This country cannot be moving on based on rumors.
But have you ever been tempted? You have mentioned the fact that you have never received bribe from anybody. There is one thing giving and another taking it. Have you ever been approached with a bribe? I'm not even looking at how much was involved, but have you been approached before?
I remember I did a story during the SEPS boss, Tondi Ghana Sugar story. And there was a SEPS officer, Opukuntiamwa, that's his name. And he had attempted to bring me money. Indeed, he met me, but I rejected it outright. And it was published on the front page then long ago in the Crusading Guide. Apart from that, my credibility over the years has grown so much that people know the stance already. And I bet you it will be very difficult for anybody to come and talk to me about bribery. Nobody. How are you going to say it? In any case, the story I'm doing is a continental story. So if you give me bribe in Ghana, what do I tell my other collaborators and partners? It's just not possible.
Were you asked by the BBC to do number 12?
Certainly not. Number 12 is an organic story that started from Ghana and went to other African countries. However, when number 12 was finished, BBC commissioned to do a story about number 12. That's why you saw them following me. And this is not the first time. Al Jazeera did same with the judges scandal, a story about the story that is done across the world.
But there are stories making rumors that after number 12, you had to pay BBC some amount to have it shown for you. It sounds funny.
But who does that? In fact, there's no format even within the BBC that allows you to pay money and put your program on it. BBC is not a small company. Other than that, people across the world would have been doing their films and go to put it there. It's not done like that. They came here, they went through all the evidence, they went through it, they were satisfied that they had a good story. So they put it out there.
Number 12, investigative piece. Fantastic. YOBBAW. Why did you decide that you show it to the president before the rest of all of us?
See, there's something in journalism we call the right to reply. We are dealing with the president of Ghana. He holds in high esteem our national coat of arms and represents all of us across the length and breadth of the world. His name has been mentioned in a film. Forget about the truthfulness or otherwise of it. But fairness in journalism suggests that you give him a right to reply. You give the vice president a right to reply, and you give the other ministers a right to reply, as well as even the referees. And I'm saying that this is conventional journalism. Nothing wrong with it. I know people have problems with it. They want to say it means I'm in bed with Nanado and all that. I beg to differ. He's the president of Ghana. We are all under him. I know his stance towards the media. He's been very firm over the years. I remember those good old days when my boss and him used to sit somewhere and I sit around them. I know his position when it comes to the media. And I felt that it would be unfair on my part and very unprofessional and unethical on my part not to give him an opportunity to have commented on the story before it got aired.
So it got aired, and then reactions have come thereafter. Key amongst them happens to be Kennedy Ejapon and the matters arising. Now, when a minute please, when you first heard of the issues raised by Kennedy Ejapon regarding Aremeyaw and the sort of things you do and how he believed clandestine the EU have sort of exploited people and the staff, what came to mind and how did you decide to receive that?
Well, I'd rather not respond to Kennedy. I think he's a Ghanaian. I have a lot of respect for people who are vociferous in what they think. So it is fair comment. But I am saying that we don't speak in the vacuum. When we speak, we must be able to provide evidence regarding what we say. Every Ghanaian is entitled to ask questions about my methodology. It's normal. It's nice. It will not be the first time. And I don't want to make reference to Ken or anybody. No. Look, in those days when we did the SEPS story, people came out and fought. We did the judges scandal, people fought. It is always normal that people will come and fight your story. Sometimes lack of knowledge, other times just being mischievous. But look, there are 4 things I have realized that happen when you are doing stories. And this is much more of what I will call an advice to my colleague journalists across the African continent. There are some people who are called the hot air blowers. They exist in every jurisdiction. When you begin a story, these people will first start and attack the integrity of that story. That's the first thing they do. And when they fail at breaking the story, they will take your credibility and try to see whether they can rip it apart. Or whilst they do this, they will tell you that if you show, then I will do this. It's normal. What they try to do is take your focus from the story. Look, I'm dealing with 77 referees, 30-something. I'm building a case. I'm going to FIFA. So anything that derails my attention now is not useful for me. So when they do the second part of breaking your credibility and it doesn't work, the third thing they will do is to come after your life. So they will do everything to make sure that you are killed. Again, when those people try and you increase your security, then they will do the last thing. Call people to kill you. Look, many African journalists have not survived this. We will survive it because our hands are clean. And look, I learned under the formidable and energetic hands of Abdel Malik Kweku Bako. I was purged of fear long ago. So these things, they don't do anything to me. They rather strengthen me and tells me that indeed I am touching on the right nerve. But let's not make a mistake of taking away people's right to speak. We have to allow them. That's how we can build this nation. Everybody's voice is important. But the key thing is, can you substantiate what you have said? If you can. I have heard some people I said that I had killed JB Dankwa. This is the first time I've killed someone. And I felt that, listen, this is such a high-profile murder case. If you have evidence that I have killed JB, what do? You take it to the police. We arrest me. And I'll be very willing to be arrested for having killed JB Dankwa. Then I read the next day that, look, you have even gone to tell the BNI to give you access to the person so that you tell them that the MPP killed and somebody killed. It's all, what is this? This is Ghana. We've never been a country where people want to take the lives of journalists because of what they say. That's the beauty about Ghana. We tolerate each other, each other's view. And that's what has moved us together as a country. So we'll get back to the basics. If you say I have killed, there is the law courts. You prove it, whether I have killed or I have not killed.
I was for Anas and Yeneno Ebo and Komoy. Anas, but only maybe it will take your time. We will do it. There's only two that I want to put together as one and then ask you.
You have been there. The bad guys who are brought to book would go to jail. You know, my story has ended up with many people going to jail. The Chinese sex mafia, 45 years. The cocoa smuggling, they were put to jail altogether 14 years. You remember the Nana Kwesi Agyemang story, in jail 10 years, all those stories. So I'd love to focus on the ingredients of the crime, so that when I get and I'm put in the dock and questions are asked me, I'll be able to provide formidable answers to be able to push on. But let me tell you one thing before we close. I believe in Ghana.
You do?
Yes. You know why? Look at the eruption. Look at the schools. Look at what is happening now. Everybody saying, I am an... Did you go on social media? It tells you that the middle class in Ghana is growing, and that we will not sit down as a people for anybody to throw wool over our eyes, and that Ghanaians are much wider awake. They can decipher what is chaff and what is good news. Thank you very much. Nice meeting you, my brother.
My pleasure speaking to you, Anas.
Thank you.
Ibishia.
Allah bless you.
God bless you too. Etifo adofo yeni abema Anas Aremeyaw Anas awo ye ehwemu hefa enema ekoso ewo yasetenem yabrabo mu ena yene no etwetwe enkomo no eha eye Peace FM ena United Television Ship House Abeka Junction na eha ena nkomo a yene abema Anas etwetwe ye no yede ABC na yede aseda ama yene executive producer Father Dixon. Afi engineer manager Kennedy Osei, Roger Cote, head of programs United Television, Danasi. Afi cameraman, radio news editor Emmanuel Bequin, and then Abuafo, Kwesi Ajimaya Obimenu, Isaac Odro, Usu, Patricia. Team Nina Afi Peace FM News team Yakambu mu edesa interview. Yenya ya nanke baby sanas. Esemu bebre nenso. Menemo kasei. Other stations who jina the console as so many no edin koma hodo me jimmy say mobeti assess ye de see her muti yen and I'm share your UTV so muti your Peace FM, OK FM, Neat FM, Fila FM, Rock FM, Beyond FM, and afi ya affiliate stations nyina yadamasi na yafa kwenye iso akai mu nyina se nyame yadomo a ochenechi ya yeton safre mu nyina Elwak agopramaso Peace FM despite group of companies and health fair no ebebaso yehwe monim se mobeba ama bibia aye kama United Television, it's all about you.
Edura won chirimu no eboa ma yadwene mu esipi esanso boa esisi nto bia eba ya wo ho kwan